addressing our board, you are welcome to do so. We simply request that you complete the appropriate form and turn it in to us so that you may be recognized during the request to address the board part of our meeting. If you have not already completed the form, please see the staff person outside the entrance to this room. Public comment is welcome. We do ask that no signs be brought into the boardroom. Mrs. Dibbert, would you please call the roll?
Mr. McFarland.
Present.
Mr. Hawley.
Here.
Mr. Garcia Mendez.
Present.
Mrs. Albers is absent but is listening via Zoom. Mr. Sykes.
Here.
Mr. Barsonis.
Yes.
Mrs. Douglas. Mrs. Wilson gave prior notice of her absent. Mrs. Goodman.
Here.
Okay. Next item up on the agenda is the consent agenda, items numbers 3.1 through 3.8. At this time, would anyone like to add or subtract anything from the consent agenda? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion at this time.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
Second by Mr. Barsonis. Discussion? Seeing none, we proceed to a vote. Motion passes. Okay, item number 4.1, recognition. The 2025, Hall County Spelling Bee brought the county's best spellers together in a grueling competition of words. Qualifying students from numerous Hall County schools compete in various grade level categories ranging from 5th to 8th grade. The 2025 Hall County Bee featured a number of GIPS student spellers and found a few among the top winners in the county. Mr. Mitchell Rouse.
Hello, good evening, everybody. Whenever we have a chance to recognize students at board meetings, we always like to do that. So we had some exciting academic achievements we wanted to bring forward to you, specifically regarding the 2025 Hall County Spelling Bee. We had a number of students from across the district, 5th grade through 8th grade, compete in that annual event. But as you can see on the agenda item, we came home with an awful lot of hardware, which is awesome. And so we wanted to celebrate those students. Before we do the certificates and the photo op, though, we do have Stacy is here and wanted to bring her up. She is the media integration specialist at Westridge Middle School, and a number of her students are being recognized this evening, so I wanted to give her a chance to talk about the program.
I don't know how the elementaries choose their students, but at Westridge, every student in the building takes the spelling test via an online spelling platform where we put in the words and they use headphones and listen to the words and do the written test first. And we make a cut to about 45 to 60 students wherever there's a natural cutoff, and then put them on the stage at the front of the auditorium just like they would have happen when they go to Wood River. And they battle it out to see which students attend the spelling bee, so they get a little bit of experience with the same platform that they'll be using once they arrive. So we've had some pretty good luck over the years, and we're especially wonderful in bringing home some hardware this year, as he said, with first through third places and overall, as well as the top 7th grader and the top 6th grader. And I know 3 of the 5 were planning to be here tonight so far. I see 2 of my students here. It was first night of track with a parent meeting at 5:30, so parents were trying to do a number of things. So I apologize for a few less people than I would wish, perhaps. But if we could bring them up. Winning the entire spelling bee was McKenna Ostrander, and she is here. Tatiana Sage was second, and I don't see her. And in third, we have Addie Haig. And these were the places overall. And then in 7th grade, also, I know she was planning to attend, but I know she's running tonight. But Remy Boofink was the first in 7th grade, and Brody Troidel was the first in 6th grade. And then I believe we also have 5th graders, right?
Yes.
Would you like to introduce your student?
Sure. The 5th grade winner was from Seedling Mile, and it's Mackenzie Fanta.
I didn't see you coming.
All right, so so Mr. Fisher has certificates for you up here if you want to come up and grab your certificate, and then we're going to take a group photo up here afterwards, all right?
Come on up here first. All right, let's see, who else did we have in here? Ready?
She's not here.
Not here.
Ken?
All right, and teachers, if you want to come up with me in the photo, you can, but you don't have to. No, that's fine. I'm going to give you the chance, just in case. Val, want your picture taken? All right, if everyone could slide over just a little bit for me, please. Oh, perfect. And parents, you can grab photos too? Yes, all right. So everybody smile here. We're going to take some photos. All right, here we go. Wonderful. Parents, yeah. Smile for mom and dad.
Take put a second, will
Stay
you please?
put. We've got more photos to get.
Thank you.
All right, wonderful. Congratulations.
Okay, item number 4.2, both the Grand Island Senior High boys and girls wrestling teams had a strong showing at the 2025 NSAA State Wrestling Tournament in February. Among the standout accolades were 2 individual state champion wrestlers for the Islanders, 1 for the boys team and 1 for the girls team. Congratulations to the following state champion wrestlers: Alex Gates and Ania Roberts.
All right, thank you, Mr. Fisher, Mr. McFarland, Board of Education, for having us here. We're very proud of our 2 state champions this year. Anaya right now is at soccer practice, and they had pictures afterwards. And so she's trying to get here if she can. Her coach is waiting outside to let her in if she gets an opportunity to be up here. But we do have Alex here right now, ready to go. You know, as a former wrestler and a former wrestling coach, it's, you know, really a pleasure and privilege to be standing here with him right now. So Alex, state champion, previously last year, placer, been wrestling for how many years, Alex? Ever since you can probably walk, right? Yeah, a long time. So, yeah. So, Alex Gates.
Do you want to be in the photo, Mr. Hurd? Ian, you want to be in the photo?
Sure, thank you.
All right. Everybody look at me and smile. Perfect. Awesome. Congrats, Alex.
Item number 5 on the agenda is request to address the board. I don't believe we have anyone to address the board this evening. So we'll go on to, excuse me, the information items. We are going to table item 6.1, the FIT update, and we're going to give Ms. Albers an opportunity to fill us in on what's happening in Washington. Lisa, it's yours.
Hi. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for this opportunity to kind of zoom in here. I couldn't be 2 places at once, but I'm glad I have this opportunity to kind of tell you what's going on in DC from NASB's vantage point. So this is the 3rd year that they've done this particular trip. They already are planning the same trip next year. They used to do it in conjunction with another conference, but they felt like it was more meaningful if we just had a smaller contingency from Nebraska. And a lot of schools throughout the entire state. So the larger school districts are represented, Omaha, Lincoln, but then we have a lot of rural districts that are represented as well. So really a good showing. There's about almost 40 participants at this conference. And the first thing we did today was meet with Megan Hellberg. She was the 2019-2020 Teacher of the Year in Nebraska. She is now an Anne Frank Scholar. And so we toured the Holocaust Museum with her. I don't know if any of you have ever been to this Holocaust Museum, but it's very impactful. And the people that gave the tours also do a lot of educating with curriculum for teachers across the country and administrators across the country. And so we were able to receive some information for curriculum that I sent to Dr. Stevens. And they're just really interested in talking to schools about what kids are interested in. So just a great passion for this particular education, very, very impactful. After that, we went to the Department of Education. And as you might imagine, the halls were empty. You could have played soccer in some of those hallways because there's not a lot of people milling around. Last year, it was a much busier place. But we met with Haley Sannon. She's the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Elementary and Secondary Education, along with somebody from their marketing area, and then another gal that worked on policy. I could not remember either one of their names, and I didn't write them down. But we talked. So they didn't have a presentation, which was kind of interesting because in years past there's been a presentation, but it was really just the whole group asking questions. And a lot of people had some of the same questions we would have had, which is staffing, interested in SPED, where did the cuts take place of all of those people that were let go? Are we going to feel that as a school district? And so we asked probably questions for, it was about an hour and 10 minutes. And so there were times I felt optimistic. There were times that the answers seemed a little evasive. It might just be that they really don't know what the answers are now. This is all pretty new to them. There was a letter in the packet we received from the new Secretary of Education, McMahon. I did forward a copy of that letter to Tony Palmer and Virgil and Matt and Summer, and I'll send it to anybody who's interested in reading it. Certainly nothing secretive in there, as you might imagine, but talks a lot about parental involvement. We asked for clarification several times as a group what that meant, and also a lot about school choice. And we talked about Nebraska's kind of interesting in the way that we don't offer any vouchers or any kind of tax credits for contributions to private schools, and just how we're kind of an outlier across the nation. And one person asked specifically if we would be penalized with withholding of federal funds if we wanted to stay that way. And they really went back to, well, it's all about the state and it's about going back to state control. So we really don't know what's going to happen with that. I don't think they know what's going to happen with that. It's just going to be kind of a slow, maybe a fast rollout. She did talk a little bit about trying to get as much of the ESSERS money out as soon as possible to kind of get done with that. They said a lot of the people that were let go had been working with some of the ESSERS funds. So that some of that will remain to be seen, but they did say they didn't make staffing cuts to Title I or II. They didn't talk much. One person asked a question about Title III, but they didn't really talk much about Title III. Tomorrow, we're going to go to, the other thing is Commissioner Maher from NDE is here. And he knows a couple people that are going to be working for the Department of Education. And he had worked with them both and had really nice things to say about him. So that was kind of promising. And so it was reassuring to have him there and kind of have his insight for the people that were going to be probably appointed to those new positions. And then there's also a State Board of Education person with us. She represents western part of Nebraska, Elizabeth Tagmeyer. And then tomorrow we're going to meet with Reg Lecce. He's with Foresight Law and Policy. We've met with him every year that we've come here, and he kind of just tells us what the current move is on some of the different laws and policies. That should be a very interesting conversation tomorrow. We're also meeting with Senator Fisher's Education Policy Director. So we were supposed to be able to meet with Senator Fisher, but they changed the calendar, so she is not in town. There's none of the representatives of Nebraska are in town this week, unfortunately, and they were supposed to be. But we're meeting with all of their aides or assistants in their particular offices. So then we're meeting with a staff member for Chairman Wahlberg. He's the chairman of the House Education and Workforce Committee to talk about workforce development, but also CTE education. So I'm looking forward to that presentation. And then in the afternoon, we're going to spend time individually with Congressman Bacon, Flood, Smith, and Ricketts. So all of us won't be going to all those meetings. I'm going to be with the representative from Adrian Smith's office. So Adrian Smith is bringing a federal bill on a federal voucher program. This is something he brought up last year when we met with their office. So I'll be quite curious to get a little bit more information from him on that. And then it's a quick turnaround. So I got here later on Sunday, and then I'll be coming back home on Wednesday, probably just in time for the weather. But they keep us hopping during this whole time. And it's just super informative. And I always say, you got to have a seat at the table. It's just good to be here. Even if they're not saying what we want to hear, I always say they can't unhear what we've said. So does anybody have any questions about anything I've said or any of the experiences I've had up while I've been in DC?
Don't see any.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to report in, and I'm going to sit back and watch the rest of the meeting.
All right. Thank you, Lisa. We appreciate your report.
Thank you.
One quick note, we'd like to recognize the 2 posters on the walls underneath the TVs. Those were done for us by the students and staff of Howard Elementary School. So I'd like to give a shout out and a thank you to them for helping us decorate the walls tonight. And so thank you very much. Item number 6.2, formation approval of the committee to rename the facility currently named Success Academy. Mr. Mitchell Roush.
All right. Hello again. You get me for another couple more minutes, but hopefully this is a quick one for you. But again, my name is Mitchell Roush. I am the communications director for the school district here, for those watching the live stream. And I am here representing on behalf of the district leadership team, all right? So what we're going to discuss today is the process of potentially renaming the Success Academy facility here in the district. So I've got a couple slides, going to walk through why we're wanting to bring this conversation to you and what we're hoping to do for next steps. And then, of course, if you have any questions, toss them my way and I'll do my best to answer them. So this is a building. It's the current Success Academy building that we have here in the district. It is located next to Grand Island Senior High and right behind the tennis courts and the football stadium right off of Lafayette Street, all right? So y'all are probably familiar with this building, but the issue that we have is it is called Success Academy. That is the actual name of the building, and that's, oh, you need me? Oh, good deal. I was like, Corey's coming after me. But this poses a problem for us that we wanted to bring before you specifically. So why do we want to change the facility name? Well, Success Academy is no longer housed there. If you recall, as we made some transitions before this current school year, Success Academy, the high school version of Success Academy, has moved to the Islander Annex. They are no longer housed in this building. And now in this building, what we have is the High School Skills Academy, in addition to having a room separate for the esports team, which has been there for a couple of years, right? But the building's called Success Academy. As you can imagine, that would be confusing for our stakeholders, staff, families, students, that sort of thing. So we want to do the normal process of trying to minimize that confusion by renaming this facility. Specifically, we believe at the district leadership team level, it's probably best practice to have our facilities not be named after programs, if that makes sense, for this very reason, right? We don't have Success Academy in that building anymore. Skills is there, and it's very confusing for folks to say, come to the Success Academy building when they're going for skills, that sort of thing. So we want to establish a facility name that could ideally live on for decades, regardless of what is being housed in that facility. So hopefully that makes sense. So why am I talking about it at a board meeting? Because of policy. Policy 4510, we have a policy that maps out the process that we have to take in order to name or rename a facility. I put together the greatest hits on there. That's literally a copy and paste from our policy, except for I took Board of Education and shortened it to BOE for the sake of reading. But this is basically the policy that says if we would like to name or rename a facility in the district, the board has to approve of a committee that could be appointed for facilitating this process. The committee needs to have board member representation, administrator, teacher representation, and community representation as well. And then the idea is the approved committee then gathers together and they identify what they think will be a good best practice to engaging both GIPS staff and Grand Island community members to suggest their ideas for renaming the building. Then the committee, after collecting those suggestions, whittles those down to a few recommendations, and then we would come back to a board meeting, present recommendations to the board for you all to decide if it's a good idea or not, right? So that was my lesson in policy for the last couple of weeks. But that's why I'm here, is to bring forward to you, both for information and action, so we can get moving quickly, is to approve the committee. We're not approving any names this evening. We're just voting on the committee of folks that will facilitate this process. When I reviewed the policy, I took this to district leadership team. They thought this was a good approach. They said, Mitch, you should do it, so that's why I'm here. And then I sat down with Mr. Fisher. We put down some names on a piece of paper, brainstormed some different things on if we were to form a committee, what would it potentially look like, so we could try to make this process as easy for you as possible. The reason we're wanting to do both information and action this evening is I spoke with Mr. Petch, obviously. If we are going to be renaming a facility, that also probably means we're going to be changing some things on an actual building. And he requested if we could have this information done before his team does a lot of their summer work. That would be greatly appreciated. All right? So that's all the context behind why I'm here. Here is the proposed committee that we have put together that we would like for you to consider for your vote later this evening. All right, again, coming back to the policy, we've got to have board representation, administration representation, teacher representation, and community representation. All right, so Mr. Fisher told me that Eric Garcia Mendez and Amanda Wilson both volunteered to be on this committee, so you're on the list. All right, and then myself, on behalf of the district leadership team, Mr. Petch, obviously, for the grounds department, and then Renee Engel, she is the director of special education in the district. We have Emily Bailey, she is an elementary school teacher at Gates and is the incoming GIEA president. We thought she'd be a good representation to have. We've got Jared Bombeck and Sean Willie. Jared Bombeck is the Gish Freshman Academy principal. Sean Willie is one of our freshman counselors. Being as this facility is the closest to the high school and so far has been mainly used for high school-like programming, I reached out to Mr. Hubbard and said, who do you want in the room? And he gave me these two names. Then we have Kelsey Alcorn. She is a teacher at the High School Skills Academy. I reached out to our skills principal and said, give me someone to put in the room. And she said, this person would be great. And then Jennifer Worthington as a community member. She's retired, has extensive experience with the school district. And then Amanda Moritz, who is a community member heavily involved in supporting the district, is a parent in the district, and is an active community member partner with us as well. She's from the YWCA. So that's the committee we have put together for you all to consider and to vote on later this evening. So then what's next after this? As I mentioned before, info and action tonight. I'll schedule then, I haven't been presumptuous, I haven't scheduled anything yet. I'll schedule the meeting for our committee to get together, and then we'll talk about how do we want to engage staff and public per policy for suggestions, and then we'll field the suggestions, we'll put together our recommendation, and then we'll come back here and have another conversation. That's all I have. What questions or comments do y'all have? Or Mr. Fisher, if there's anything I missed, you can weigh in as well.
See none?
All right,
All right, thank you, Mr. Roush.
got it. Thank you.
Okay, item number 6.3, policy.
Well, that worked out good because you got an extra dose of policy with that in there tonight. So after we name policies, then we probably ought to have a plan for financing them. And so the first policy that we have up for review tonight, again, we have a series of policies from really the business finance side of things. Policy 4530, Facility Finance Program. And as we look through this policy, we'll see right away there's one of those thes that we've been trying to eliminate from the Grand Island Public Schools, to just make it Grand Island Public Schools. And then when you look down to that second line, the use of pay-as-you-go funds accrued through a building levy not to exceed the maximum levy allowed. Basically, before it just said 14 cents, which is still the maximum levy that's allowed in the building fund. But there has been discussion about changing that at different times. So we felt like while we were reviewing this policy, we would just make it so that if there was a change somewhere down the road and that maximum changed, we would just simply say that we would not exceed whatever that maximum levy allowed was. And then as you go down to that second paragraph, there's another "the" there. And then basically just changing that wording to "as allowed for by law." And so again, trying to make it more general so that every time there's a change in law, there isn't necessarily a need to change the policy. Then there in that last statement there, all payments pursuant to such lease shall be made from, it did say current building funds, general funds, but basically available funds as approved by the board and allowed by statute. Because actually we could be using funds out of the QC Puff fund, would be another area where it could be used. Right now we're paying a lease purchase for the OLC Center out of the cooperative fund. So again, it just roping ourselves into just the general fund or the building fund really wasn't where we wanted to be. So questions on that one? All right, and moving right along to the next one. Selection of an architect, 4552. This was one that there was nothing to be changed other than one "the." Any questions on this? If not, let's jump down to 4553. Contractors Fair Employment, and this was one that I don't even think there was a "the" change in this one. It's just simply a review. It's good as it is. Procedures for acquisition of school sites, 4561, and again, everything was good here other than one "the," looking to eliminate. Questions there? 4610, school property disposal. There are a couple of items here that just some minor changes. There was a "the," and then one of the other things that the policy committee has been working towards is to try and be consistent throughout the course of a policy, and in some cases on this one it said board, in some cases it said Board of Education. So there are a couple places there where the "of education" is proposed to be eliminated so that it just simply says board throughout, rather than having people question, is there a difference between board and Board of Education? Otherwise, basically just a review. Questions there? All right.
Oh, Eric, Mr. Garcia Mendez.
Thank you. Do we have to put like in, what are they called? Like parentheses or hyphen or what's it called? The school. The, you know how you abbreviate some stuff? Do we need to add that in order to just provide more clarity? Like, you know how you do Board of Education and then parentheses like BOE? Do we need to do like board, I guess? I have no idea. I'm just asking.
I guess as the policy committee has reviewed it, they basically have felt like, well, as long as we're consistent throughout, there shouldn't be a question as to what board we're talking about. And if you look there right at the beginning, it does talk about Grand Island Public Schools Board of Education. Well, that, when you put Grand Island Public Schools Board, that's the formal name for the board, and that we felt like was appropriate in that opening statement. And then from there on, just going to the board rather than, and again, you'll notice that in some places it already just said the board. And so, again, the feeling was it would be less confusing if it was the same everywhere. And we didn't really talk about whether there needed to be anything in parentheses to, you know, I think if you're right, I think if we were going to go to BOE, then you would definitely want to put that in there. But board is, you know, I think it is technically the board when we're talking about the Board of Education. So I think we're good there as long as everyone's comfortable with that.
Mr. Hawley.
Just to tackle onto that as well, I would agree with you, Mr. Fisher, if we were going to shorten up the entire thing into an abbreviation. But when you navigate to the GIPS.org website and you go to look at policies, these are all underneath the board policies. So it shouldn't create any confusion as to who we're talking about versus having board and Board of Education in the same policy. So dialing that in for clarity, and then hopefully just by where you navigate to on the website, it should take care of that confusion.
And I think actually when we get down to the last one that we have here in information, you know, talking about the foundation, they also have a board. And so in that one, it's designated the Grand Island Public Schools Foundation Board. Just again to clarify which board we're talking about there. Other questions around that? All right, then we will move down to 4620, request donations and gifts. And again, this was one where the only thing that really needed changed was elimination of a couple of "thes." Questions around that one? All right, then 4630 does deal with the Grand Island Public Schools Foundation. Had to do some research on this one. So the Grand Island Public Schools Foundation, we're going to eliminate that "the" there. Basically, when you read down through that, whoops, not sure what happened there. Right before that next section of red talks about the Articles of Incorporation for Grand Island Foundation Fund, which actually, when it was established in 1990, that was what it was called in the 501c3 that was initially established. And then we added that note in 2015, the name was changed to the Grand Island Public Schools Foundation. Now, actually, there was one other change in there. It went to the, I can't remember what it was, but between 1990 and 2015, there was another name change in there. So that's the third name. The Grand Island Public Schools Foundation was the third name that was established in 2015. Questions around that? Does that read okay to everyone? Again, we had that question come up about the fund, so felt like adding that 2015 name change to what it currently is was probably a good clarifying statement. Okay, that is all we have in terms of information policies.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher. Next up on the agenda, the item is the Hall County School District 2 DBA Grand Island Public Schools Audit Report fiscal year 23-24. Mr. Virgil Harden.
Well, good evening, folks. I'd be happy to try to answer any questions you might have. Just as a reminder, the audit report was issued with what you would want and expect with the unqualified audit opinion that the financial statements present fairly the financial condition of the school district as of August 31st, 2024.
Any questions for Mr. Harden? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion at this time.
I make a motion to accept the Hall County School District 2 DBA Grand Island Public Schools Audit Report FY 23-24 as presented and placed on file.
Second by Mr. Barsonis. Discussion, seeing none, we proceed to a vote. Motion passes. Item number 7.2, security camera upgrade proposals. Mr. Dan Petch.
Evening, folks. Back in December, you might recall, I'd presented the project list to the board for your review. And so naturally, we're moving forward with some of those projects. And so this is the largest, and it's the number one project on that list, also the most expensive. And that's, I'm wearing green tonight for two reasons. It's St. Patrick's Day, and I want to spend money. And so, actually, we have been working on this for about 6 months, this project. So it's a big one. It covers a dozen buildings. This is phase 1 of 2, FYI. So we'll be talking about this similar time next year as well. So we had two legit bidders turn in proposals to us. One was from Kidwell and one was from CEI. Kidwell was lower, and we have worked with Kidwell before, not on cameras, but this camera system we're using, the Vigilon system, is a district standard. So we're pretty confident that they have everything included because they were $305,000 lower than CEI, who has done a lot of our work in the past. So I was kind of surprised, but I've talked with them multiple times and feel confident that they can go ahead and do this work for us. And so we'd like to recommend Kidwell Incorporated to do our phase 1 of our security camera and vape detection project. Any questions?
Mr. Hawley.
You said this is for 12 buildings. Which buildings are we starting with?
Senior high, stadium, the middle schools, and then I don't have them in front of me, but the rest fill in for the elementaries. So, every time I do project lists and review the needs of the buildings with the principals, this is usually their number one. And so I'm pretty excited to be able to accomplish this task in the next couple of years to be able to get our entire district updated with cameras. If you need that, I can get it for you. It's
I just wanted to
okay.
Top of your head where you're starting.
Yep.
Any other questions?
Make a motion to approve the security camera proposal from Kidwell Incorporated in the amount of $2,131,828 to be paid from QC Puff.
Second by Mr. Hawley. Discussion? Proceed to a vote. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Item number 7.3, formation and approval of the committee to rename the facility currently named Success Academy. Mr. Roush.
Hello again. I'm happy to answer any other questions if you have any.
I'll make a motion to approve the committee to rename the facility currently named Success Academy as presented.
Second by Mr. Hawley. Discussion. Seeing none, you may proceed to a vote. Motion passes. Item number 7.4, 4321, gate receipts and admissions.
Wasn't much of a break from policy, but here we go. Again, we're back on the business policies that we reviewed last month for action. The first one dealing with gate receipts and admissions. Actually, there are no changes to this policy, so this would be simply an approval of a review. Questions?
I would entertain a motion at this time.
I make a motion to approve policy 4321, gate receipts and admissions as presented.
Second by Mr. Barsness. Discussion. Seeing none, we proceed to a vote. Motion passes.
Okay, policy 4322, income from school sales and services. Basically, we struck the language that was there and put in new language along the lines of school provided services and products are not income generating for the district. And then it goes on to talk about what the proceeds would do. Any questions?
Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve policy 4322, income from school sales and or services as presented.
Second by Mr. Barsness. Discussion. Seeing none, may proceed to a vote. Motion passes.
Policy 4330, impressed funds account. In this case, the executive director of business changed that name to chief financial officer, was the only change that was there. I always like to point out, because you don't get to see this very often, there's that asterisk that's there, and if you go down to the bottom, it explains what an impressed fund is. So when you see that and you think, well, I wasn't all that impressed by that fund, you can go down there and you see that actually an impressed fund is not necessarily impressive. So, questions on that one?
I make a motion to approve policy 4330, impressed funds account as presented.
Second by Mr. Hawley. Discussion. Seeing none, we proceed to a vote. Motion passes.
Policy 4340, cash in school buildings. Again, just some wording changes here. I don't know that any of the intent or really anything that was changed makes this policy any different. I think it just reads more accurately in terms of the terminology that's used there. Questions on anything with that one?
I make a motion to approve policy 4340, cash in school buildings as presented.
Second by Mr. Hawley. Discussion? Seeing none, we proceed to vote. Motion passes.
Okay, policy 4450, payroll and payment policy. Again, we had director of business rather than chief financial officer that we would be looking to change there. And then when you get down towards the bottom there, it talks about physical checks and just changing the wording there. And we also added a 2 because it was missing. Any questions on that one?
Make a motion to approve policy 4450, payroll and payment policy as presented.
Second by Mr. Hawley. Discussion? Seeing none, may we proceed to a vote? Motion passes.
And finally, 4470, settlement of claims, very simple one, simply a review other than eliminating one of those thes.
I make a motion to approve policy 4470, settlement of claims as presented.
Second by Mr. Hawley. Discussion? Seeing none, may we proceed to vote? Motion passes. Reports. Item 8.1, Grand Island Public Schools Foundation Report. Ms. Tracy Goodman.
This is the Grand Island Public Schools Foundation notes. Number one, the GIPS Foundation has approved the 2025 Scholarship Award Plan and declared values for both general and academic aristocrat scholarships to be offered. Two, the foundation will offer and award the top 5 distinguished scholarships: the Bob Hamlet Northwestern Scholarship, 2 Jack and Lucille Martin Memorial Scholarships, and 2 Charles R. and Bessie E. Frith scholarships. These 5 scholarships will be awarded in March during a separate signing ceremony. The foundation is grateful for the 90 volunteer scholarship reviewers who have given selflessly of their time and talents to ensure that the awarding process is fair and equitable to all students who fulfilled and submitted their applications. For the foundation spoke to the GIEA to secure their endorsement for the 2025 staff giving campaign that will kick off on April 1st and end April 25th. During the March GIPSF board meeting, board members will be asked to attend scholarship signings and both the Martin scholarships and general scholarship receptions. That concludes our notes on the Grand Island Public School Foundation.
Thank you, Tracy. Item number 8.2, Mr. Owen Williams, Student Representative Report.
Good evening. So I'll start off my report just kind of with some activities that have been going on around GIPS lately. So as you've clearly all heard, because they were here, Anaya Roberts and Alex Gates both brought home gold for their girls and boys wrestling teams. That makes Anaya a 2-time state champion, and Alex finished off his career on top after a previous runner-up finish. Actually, both of them were seniors, so they were both able to finish off on a high note. The girls wrestling team finished in the top 5 at state as a team and had multiple medalists, and the boys finished in 4th, and they also had multiple medalists. The basketball team finished their season 13-12 and finished as a district runner-up. They actually lost to who became the state champions. They lost to Papio South. So the Gift Show Choir team recently finished their season, and a few of their highlights include being the grand champions of the GI Northwest competition while earning awards for top vocals and choreography, and they placed 3rd in both the Hastings and Omaha North competitions. The speech team recently had districts, and they placed 4th on Saturday with 8 medalists. The robotics teams had both of their groups finish in the top 25 at the state competition over the weekend. And spring activities are finally here. So Islander track, soccer, golf, tennis, and baseball teams have begun their practice and are starting games up this week. The Islander powerlifting team is sending 10 lifters and 2 coaches to nationals in Wisconsin on Wednesday. So we're wishing them the best of luck and safe travels. For around GIPS, the week before spring break, schools across GIPS participated in the Read Across America Week, where there was a lot of volunteers that visited schools throughout the week to read. So I got to be a part of a group of 15 in the Hooligans group that went to Shoemaker, and we were able to read to every class in the Shoemaker building. So I read to a 3rd grade class and a 1st grade class, and they were all great listeners. And so yeah, we were glad to be able to do that, and it was a good experience for all. And then also, the week before spring break, there was the Islander Extravaganza. So this is where future Islanders had the opportunity to meet with their coaches, sponsors, and students involved in activities that interest them. And the students and their parents got to take a tour of the school thanks to the help of the GISH ambassadors. Hundreds of families attended the event, and the activities office worked with the hooligans group, just kind of plan that out and improve upon it from last year, and they're going to keep working on it because that's really going to be one of the main ways that we hope to increase involvement in activities as we move forward. And one thing I wanted to bring up is these posters coming from Howard Elementary. I don't know if I talked about it this December, but the Howard Elementary staff is just great. Every year, it's something that my family's helped out with a little bit. They get these rooms full of donated toys and candles and just everything you can think of, jewelry, gloves. And these kids get to go in during their PE class and they get to pick out presents for their family members because that area isn't one of the most well-off in our community. So, and those kids just would love the opportunity to give their family members a Christmas present. So that staff plans that all, and we move all that stuff into the gym over the weekend, and then they get to come in during their PE class and one at a time pick out a present for their family members that they think they'd like, and it really just brightens up their whole holiday season. So for that, I have a lot of appreciation for the staff, and they do things like this, so they're just great. But my staff shout out for the month is a team that impacts a large variety of students and keeps all of our extracurricular activities in order. So I wanted to recognize and thank the Islander Activities Office, which includes Mrs. Tomlin, Mr. Lindbergh, and Mr. Ladwig. So the work of these three is vital to making Islander athletics, fine arts, and other activities possible. The Activities Office helps with scheduling, transportation, fundraising, and staffing to make sure students have the greatest coaches and sponsors that they can have. Mrs. Tomlin, Mr. Lindbergh, and Mr. Ladwig have all helped me with my report throughout the year, and I wouldn't be able to create reports for you without their support. And they also lead the Hooligans group, which I've talked about a few different times, which has really taken a big step forward this year in just promoting GISH and its activities. And they do things like planning tailgates, and some of them went to a leadership conference this year to improve leadership in our activities. So I just wanted to thank them three for their hard work and their support of Islander activities, because it's really something that students enjoy the most about school. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Owen. Okay, item 8.3, Superintendent Report. Mr. Fisher.
All right, just to go off a couple of things that Owen shared. Certainly, if you ever get the chance to take in the Howard Christmas festivities, I've got to wrap packages the last couple of years, and it's pretty neat, as he shared, to see those students come and shop for their family, and then get their, they get to pick out the wrapping paper and all that, and then they have people there that are wrapping those gifts. So that is kind of a neat event that goes on there. Owen talked about the Islander Extravaganza. I did get the chance to go up and spend time that evening at the Extravaganza, and a little different format than we've had in the past. And I think overall, the feedback that I got that night was very positive about what was being done, and they actually held it in the East Gym rather than the larger gym. It kind of brought everyone together a little more and made it simpler for people to just walk and go between activities, and then and actually got to set in on the High School 101, basically where they had a little bit of an introductory class for parents that would talk just about what high school, to expect as students are entering high school. So overall, I thought, and the turnout was good. And, we, a year ago, kind of inadvertently, that night ended up on Ash Wednesday. And there was a lot of concern that, were people going to come on Ash Wednesday? And actually the turnout last year was great. So they decided, well, let's just do it on Ash Wednesday again. And really the thinking and I think it is what happens is people are already out for services that evening, and they just come by, and so anyhow, that was one of those good events that took place here. Wanted to remind everyone that we do have parent advisory meeting tomorrow over the lunch hour. So if you're available, certainly would invite any board members that can take that in to do so. In the foundation report, the scholarship signing was mentioned, and again, I think board members would certainly be welcome to attend that. I think that was mentioned there. It is Friday of this week, and I'm not entirely sure. We'll get you information on that sent out, but that is Friday at the high school. On Saturday, if you've been waiting to buy a mattress, the band has their mattress fundraiser, which sounds kind of interesting. That's when I was at the band concert the other night, the guy that actually is in charge of the fundraiser, that the outside group that actually puts this on, evidently they bring in 30 plus mattresses into the gym, and people are able to come and try out all kinds of different, whatever brand of mattress you've been maybe thinking about, it probably is going to be available, and a fairly good portion of the proceeds, because basically the way this group works is they don't have the overhead of having a store or any of those kind of things, that they can sell mattresses pretty much at the same price you're going to find them through a store, but a big chunk of the proceeds ends up going to whatever group they're working with. They said that they had done this fundraiser in Minden, obviously a lot smaller place than Grand Island, and had sold about 40 mattresses the week before. So anyhow, hopefully it's a good fundraiser for our band, and they're putting together money for a trip to DC next summer, not this coming summer, but the following summer. Thinking about the music side of things, we're definitely starting to get into that concert season. I'm seeing a lot of elementary concerts showing up. I think later this week on Thursday, we have the junior high school show choirs performing at Gish. Sunday evening, I believe, is a cabaret show. So there are a lot of those music pieces coming up. You might want to mark on your calendar Sunday, March 30th is the honors event. It's a Sunday afternoon. It's a 4:30 in the afternoon event rather than evening. So normally you would talk about honors night, but since it's at 4:30, it's an honors event. Wanted to mention Project Search, which is our group that work with some of our students out at CHI. They are having a 15-year reunion. They've been doing that program for 15 years now. So on Friday the 28th from 4 to 5:30, they're having an open house for that. So again, that might be an event if you're looking for something to do on a Friday afternoon. You could take that in. Registration is moving right along. We're in the final couple weeks of registration. It finishes up on March 31st. I know at least one of our elementaries, I saw the numbers today, has 100% of their students registered, which means they have all of their current students, and they have a good chunk of whatever they think they're going to get for kindergarten registered. So some of our numbers are getting pretty close to the end. Obviously, we want to get that registration finished up so we know exactly how many sections of the different classes we need in our elementary buildings, and that will help us then with our staffing. Today was the contract due back day, as far as indicating that they were going to accept a contract for next year. And so I think, obviously there's always a few surprises that show up when that comes to the end, but I think overall, I think that pretty much was what we were hoping for, or what we were expecting. Maybe not hoping for. We'd always hope that we had less staffing needs but I guess what we're hoping for right now is that we have less staffing needs than we had a year ago. And so it kind of looks like we're hopefully on that track. last thing I wanted to mention is that I will be out of town, starting tomorrow afternoon through next Tuesday. We're going down to visit our daughter in Florida, so I should be available, via email, text, phone call. Obviously, continue to monitor what's going on. That's all I had on my report. Any questions anyone would have for me?
Seeing none, thank you. Okay, item number 9, executive session for the purpose of discussing a possible property transaction because it is in the best interest of the public to discuss this matter in closed session. At this time, I would entertain a motion to convene to executive session.
I make a motion for the board to convene to the executive session for the purpose of discussing property transaction because it's in the best interest of the public to discuss this matter in closed session.
Second by Ms. Douglas. Any discussion? May proceed to a vote. Motion passes. All right, the official time is now 6. Everybody left. Open up for a recommendation that we reconvene from executive session.
I make a motion to reconvene from executive session.
Discussion. Second by Mr. Sykes. Discussion. Seeing none, proceed to a vote. Passes. Vote passes. All right. Notification of upcoming meetings.